Well, there's no question that this hand injury has happened at the worst possible time of year. I'm not sure there'd be a good time of year, but I'm definitely behind the 8 ball now. I did have 4 or 5 days where I couldn't really do anything, and then when I was able to do stuff again, I can only do stuff with one hand, so that slows me down. And I'm getting better, but I still have, things in a splint. So the garden is looking pretty horrible. I did mow almost the whole thing. I've got one little strip to do, and that feels great. That at least made it look better. The grass was knee-high in places. So I just got back from this morning. We had a baseball game, and we had town meeting after that. And we're home now, and we're gonna go to camp because we've got family up. So I have about an hour, and I'm gonna do what I can, and then that's it. Late afternoon, evening. Let's see if I can get a little bit more time in the garden and try to catch up, as things are starting to get ahead of me to the point where I'm a little worried about it. A lot worried.
These strawberries are looking quite good. However, so are the newly sprouted weeds, with which they're now competing. On a nice, hot, dry day like this, cultivating in the morning is a great idea. Anything I cut off below the soil line, or yank out and leave roots exposed, will wither and die within hours. Unlike the strawberries, this rice is not looking as vigorous. The weeds, however, seem to have no problem germinating. Last year was the first year I grew rice on the homestead. I'm not worried about the rice plants themselves after last year's experiment. Back then, they started off a little yellowed and took a while to take off. And I got these in the ground way sooner than I did last year. But it's all for naught if I don't kill back these weeds before they become too well rooted and strong. These peas look like they're just itching to climb something. I wouldn't want to disappoint them, so I'm going to get the trellis installed. The more energy the pea plants put into searching for non-existent trellis and then supporting their own weight, the less they put into producing pods of delicious peas. I'm willing to put a little effort into ensuring that is where they focus their efforts. That was a great little break from cultivating, but it seems a shame to waste a hot, dry day that could be killing weeds. So, I'm going to hit these 2 rows and make sure the lettuce, kale, and other brassicas have all the competition-free space they can use. Throughout the growing season, I add hoses to the network of irrigation as I need them. Now that I've cultivated the rice and the weeds I pulled out or cut off have been killed by the noon sun, it's time to try flooding the rice paddies to keep those weeds from resprouting. And now it's time to mow this cover crop and prep these beds as potato planting day approaches. It never hurts to get a quick reminder about where everything is going in the garden. Since I'm working on the potato beds, I wanted to make sure I was remembering the location correctly. This is also a good excuse to pour another cup of coffee. I've mentioned before how enamored I am with mulch, and all the work it saves later in the season. Mulching also preserves moisture, and since we've messed up the Earth's climatic system so badly, we're going to have to contend with massive fluctuations in moisture, well outside what has been the norm for the past few millennia. We're already seeing this here in Maine, where we've had a prolonged period of drought, though it's nothing to what they're dealing with in the Southwest and places like California. In terms of material, I'm partial to shredded leaves because I can get all I want within walking distance of the garden. However, I wouldn't turn down almost any organic matter with a high carbon percentage. Hay, wood chips, you name it. If it's free and it will cover the soil at a great enough depth to suppress weeds, I'll take it. Leaves are nice because they don't contain weed seeds. Shredding them makes it harder for the wind to disperse them, but easier for earthworms to do the early work of turning them back into soil. This is my favorite garden cart, partially because I designed and built it myself, partially because I built it out of stuff I had lying around and wheelbarrow tires I rescued from the dump, and partially because it works so well. Using the physics I learned in high school, namely that associated with simple machines of wheels and leverage, I can move massive amounts of weight with far less effort than it should take. But I don't have a place to store something this long and unstorable. Therefore, it spent its entire life outside with the elements, and in Maine, that's a lot of elements. Rain, sun, wind, snow, and the freeze-thaw cycle take their toll on wood and screws. Still, having to replace a board every decade or so isn't too much to ask for such an awesome tool. Before laying down mulch, it's important to make sure weeds aren't just going to push up through it. There are two options. First, you can cultivate and kill all the weeds by cutting them off at the roots. Second, smother weeds and prevent them from reaching sunlight by laying down a weed suppressant, such as thick layers of cardboard or newspaper beneath your leaves or grass clippings. Sometimes I'll actually do both, cultivate and lay down cardboard. Inside a hoop house, this isn't really necessary because no water will be getting to the weeds except within a few inches of the drip irrigation tape. And water is one of the key ingredients for germination. In here, just the leaves will do the trick once I get down to bare earth.